What if the biggest thing standing between you and the life you want isn't your job, your past, your bank account, or even the people around you? What if it's something far more subtle, something you carry with you every day without realizing it? Imagine waking up each morning feeling stuck in the same cycle, replaying the same thoughts, reacting the same way to challenges, and wondering why nothing ever really changes. It's frustrating. You set goals, make plans, try to stay positive, yet somehow you end up back where you started. Deep down, you know you're capable of more. You've felt those sparks of ambition, had moments of clarity, maybe even glimpses of success, but they fade and the old patterns return like clockwork. It's not that you're lazy. It's not that you're not smart or motivated. The truth is your brain has been programmed, wired by repetition, shaped by experiences, and trained to operate in a way that prioritizes comfort over growth. And here's the catch. Your mind doesn't care if those patterns are limiting. It just wants to stick with what's familiar. That's why you can want something deeply, yet sabotage it unconsciously. That's why you might fear change even when you know it's necessary. But here's the good news. What's been wired in can be rewired. You are not stuck with the mental blueprint you inherited or developed. You can interrupt the patterns, shift your internal dialogue, and recondition your mind to align with the life you truly want. This isn't about magic or hype. It's about understanding how your brain works and using that understanding to your advantage. If you've ever felt like success is just out of reach, maybe it's time to stop chasing more strategies and start upgrading the system that drives them all, your mind. Success is something we all strive for, whether it's financial freedom, meaningful relationships, peak health, or a sense of purpose. But for many people, success feels inconsistent, fleeting, or just completely out of reach. We live in a world full of information. Books, podcasts, courses, and social media are overflowing with strategies on how to be more productive, how to set better goals, how to hustle harder. Yet despite this wealth of knowledge, most people still feel stuck. They try to change their circumstances without realizing that their biggest obstacle isn't outside, it's inside. It's not about what they know, it's about how they think. Because no matter how many tools or techniques you try, if your mind is operating from a place of fear, doubt, or old patterns, you'll keep getting the same results. There's a fundamental truth that often gets overlooked in the chase for achievement because you are the vast majority of your of trust that your atonement wire is built over time. Sometimes things happen to you in your mind and they choose over the choices. This is the reason why come and see, so common in African subcultures and some African cultures and some African ages. And some is simply the result of habits repeated so often that they become automatic. Over time, these internal patterns form the lens through which you view the world, and more importantly, how you see yourself in it. If your mental wiring is set to survival mode, you'll constantly play small, avoid risks, and settle for less than you're capable of. If your brain is trained to expect failure or rejection, you'll subconsciously create situations that reinforce that belief. On the other hand, when your mind is wired for growth, possibility, and resilience, you begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You make decisions based on vision, not fear. You take action even when it's uncomfortable because your internal compass is aligned with success, not safety. Rewiring your brain isn't about pretending life is perfect or ignoring reality. It's about interrupting the old patterns that no longer serve you and replacing them with thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that move you forward. It's about consciously choosing to think in a way that supports the life you want to build. Because when you change the way you think, everything else begins to shift. Your choices, your emotions, your habits, and ultimately your outcomes. And that's where real transformation begins. Most people don't realize that they're living their lives based on outdated mental programming. From the moment we're born, our minds begin absorbing beliefs, fears, and behaviors from our environment. Parents, teachers, peers, media. Over time, these inputs form deeply rooted patterns in the brain, and those patterns start to guide our decisions automatically. And the challenge is many of those beliefs and behaviors are limiting. They were formed in moments of stress, failure, or fear, and they quietly govern how we think, feel, and act every single day. And the worst part, most of us never stop to question them. You may want more out of life, more success, more peace, more freedom. But if your mind is wired with thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'll probably fail, or it's too late for me, then no amount of effort will bring lasting change. You'll keep hitting invisible walls. You'll take one step forward and two steps back, not because you're lazy or unmotivated, but because your subconscious mind is running an old program. It's doing its job, keeping you in what it believes is a safe zone, even if that zone is far from where you want to be. This creates a painful cycle. You set goals, you feel excited, you take action, and then doubt creeps in. Fear shows up, you procrastinate, self-sabotage, or quit altogether. Each time this happens, the old belief gets stronger. The brain says, see, I told you this wouldn't work. And so the cycle repeats. You start believing successes for other people. You settle, not because you want to, but because you don't know how to break free from the invisible chains that hold you back. The real problem isn't a lack of intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It's that most people try to change their lives without changing the mental wiring that created their current reality. They use willpower to fight habits that are wired deep into their nervous system. But willpower is temporary. It gets drained. What you need is a new default setting, a new mindset that supports your growth rather than resists it. Rewiring your brain is not just a motivational idea. It's a biological necessity if you want long-term change. Until that internal shift happens, external change will always be fragile, fleeting, or frustratingly out of reach. That's the core challenge we face, and it's one that must be addressed from the inside out. Rewiring the brain might sound complex, but it begins with something simple: awareness. You cannot change what you don't recognize. The first step is becoming aware of your thoughts, your emotional triggers, your habitual responses to stress, failure, or uncertainty. These patterns are often so automatic that they feel like just the way things are. But when you pause and observe, you start to see that your thoughts are not facts, they're habits. They've been repeated so many times that they've carved mental pathways in your brain, like grooves on a well-worn road. To change your life, you need to change the route your brain automatically takes. Now, one powerful way to do this is by shifting your focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you constantly focus on what's missing, what could go wrong, or what others think of you, you reinforce scarcity and fear. But if you intentionally focus on what's working, what you're grateful for, and what's possible, you begin to train your brain to notice opportunity instead of obstacles. This isn't about ignoring reality. It's about changing the lens through which you interpret it. Over time, this new perspective becomes your new normal. Another key element is the language you use with yourself. Words are not just communication tools, they're commands to the brain. When you constantly say, I can't, I'm not good at this, or this always happens to me, you're reinforcing limitation. But when you replace those with empowering language, I'm learning, I can figure this out, this is a challenge, not a failure, you give your brain a different script to follow. You shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. In addition to focus and language, daily rituals play a crucial role in rewiring. Your habits are the physical expression of your mental patterns. If you want to think differently, act differently. Simple daily practices like journaling, meditation, visualization, or movement send a signal to your nervous system that change is happening. Repetition is the key. The more you reinforce the new pattern, the weaker the old one becomes. Changing the brain doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of consistent, conscious effort. But the results compound. Each time you choose awareness over autopilot, growth over fear, action over avoidance, you strengthen the neural circuits aligned with success. With time and commitment, what once felt unnatural becomes automatic. That's the moment you know real transformation is taking place. When the new pattern becomes who you are, not just what you're trying to do. There comes a moment in every journey of transformation when everything shifts, not because the circumstances change, but because the person facing them does. It's the moment when you finally get tired of your own excuses, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. It's not dramatic or loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like a deep breath after years of holding it in. But in that moment, something powerful happens. You decide, not just casually or half-heartedly, but fully with certainty. You decide to stop waiting for the perfect time, the right opportunity, or someone else's permission. You decide to take control of your own mind. For some, this moment comes after yet another failure, another mischance, another conversation with themselves that ends in disappointment. For others, it happens in the middle of a regular day, an ordinary moment when they suddenly see the truth they've been avoiding. Whatever triggers it, the decision is the same. I won't live like this anymore. That decision is the spark. It doesn't solve everything instantly, but it changes the entire direction of your life. At the point where you stop being a victim of your programming and start becoming the architect of your future. Once you reach that point, action becomes non-negotiable. You start doing things you once avoided, having the hard conversations, showing up even when you're afraid, saying no to what doesn't serve you. You begin to disrupt the old patterns, not just in your thoughts, but in your behavior. You feel uncomfortable, uncertain, even scared, but you keep moving, and with every step, something inside you grows stronger. That's the real power, not the absence of fear, but the ability to move forward in spite of it. This key moment isn't about a single breakthrough. It's about the commitment to keep choosing a new path over and over again until it becomes who you are. You stop trying to force success from the outside and start creating it from within. You realize that the most important work you'll ever do is not changing your circumstances, it's changing your mind. And from that shift, everything else begins to align. The results, the relationships, the confidence, they all start flowing from the new version of you that's no longer limited by the old wiring. That moment of decision becomes the foundation of your transformation and the turning point from which your real life begins. The journey to lasting success and fulfillment doesn't begin with external achievements. It begins within the mind. So often people chase goals thinking that reaching them will fix everything. More money, more recognition, better relationships. But time again, they arrive at those milestones only to find that the same inner doubts, fears, and limitations follow them. That's because real change doesn't come from altering your environment. It comes from transforming the way you think, the way you see yourself, and the way you respond to the world. Rewiring your brain is not about becoming someone you're not. It's about shedding the beliefs and patterns that never truly belong to you in the first place. It's about recognizing the stories you've been telling yourself, stories of not being enough, of needing permission, of being too late, and realizing that they can be rewritten. The same way your mind learned to fear, to doubt, or to shrink, it can learn to grow, to trust, and to rise. This is a process that demands honesty, consistency, and patience. It's not a quick fix, but it is a lasting one. When you commit to changing your mental patterns, You're not just chasing success, you're building a new foundation for it. You begin to trust yourself more. You develop emotional resilience. You stop reacting to life and start creating it on your terms. And from that internal transformation, every area of your life starts to improve: your career, your relationships, your health, your sense of purpose. The most empowering truth is this: you are not stuck with the mind you have. You can choose to think differently, and by doing so, live differently. Every small shift in thought, every new habit, every courageous step forward is evidence that your brain is adapting, and so is your life. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once seemed impossible becomes your new reality. So if you've ever felt like success is just out of reach, remember, it's not about doing more, trying harder, or waiting longer. It's about thinking differently. And when you change your thoughts, you change your direction. The potential has always been there. The question now is whether you're ready to claim it. Because the life you want isn't waiting somewhere far off. It's waiting inside the person you're becoming. Now is the time to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to feel 100% confident. What you need is to begin right where you are with what you have. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it does begin the moment you choose to take responsibility for your mind. You have the power to direct your thoughts, shape your beliefs, and recondition your habits. That power has always been within you, even if you've doubted it, and now you have a choice. Keep living by the same patterns, or decide that your future will be different because you will be different. Start small. Take one limiting belief you've been carrying, something like "I'm not good enough" or "I always mess things up," and challenge it. Replace it with something empowering, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. Write it down, repeat it, feel it. Let it become a new seed planted in your mind. Then act on it. Make one decision today that reflects this new belief. Maybe it's reaching out for help, starting a project you've been putting off, or simply showing up for yourself in a way you usually don't. Every time you do, you're reinforcing a new mental pathway. Make this commitment daily. Choose to engage in practices that support your growth, whether it's journaling your thoughts, meditating to quiet your mind, visualizing the future you want, or surrounding yourself with voices that lift you up. These small actions done consistently will begin to create massive shifts over time. And when it gets hard, because it will, remember why you started. You're not doing this to impress anyone. You're doing it because you deserve a life that reflects your true potential. You're doing it because deep down, you know there's more for you. So don't wait for the right mindset to appear out of nowhere. Build it. One thought, one choice, one day at a time. This is your invitation to start showing up as the person you were always meant to be. Not someday, not when everything is perfect, but today. Because the path to the life you want doesn't start with a plan. It starts with a decision. Make it now.